The quality of the horse and the quality of the rider dictate the outcome. I can throw this up on a foursquare for you. If I have a good rider on a good horse, what do I see? Okay, this is Reitz, this is Helm, this is Cirillo. A good rider on a good horse brings home the goods almost all the time. On the other hand, I get a bad rider and a bad horse, where am I? Those are the really, really bad losses. And on the other two combinations, it's just kind of a crapshoot how it turns out based on your particular circumstances.
Throom targets are lightweight, weatherproof, take thousands of rounds of shooting, and make shooting fun. Pick up a set for your next range trip.
The subconscious is great about continuously monitoring what's going on, and it can be very, very honest about what's going on. It's hard to fool. Did I say it's impossible to fool? No, I said it's hard to fool. The subconscious knows when you last dry practiced, when you last exercised, what really scares you, and how good you really are. So when a potentially dangerous situation comes along, the subconscious has to figure out who it can trust to solve the problem. Realistically, it has two approaches. It can trust the rational mind, that is that fancy, shiny new neocortex we recently developed, or it can trust the emotional system, that limbic system that everybody likes to talk about. And again, these are redundant systems, okay? You can take somebody who's had a stroke and say, please smile for me, and the person cannot physically make those muscles move to create a smile. That exact same person, if you tell them a good joke, what's gonna happen? They're gonna smile, because the smile triggers the emotional side of the brain. Completely separate systems as far as this stuff goes. So, if the rational mind is trusted, the thinking, tool-making primate gets to stay in control. He can use tools, recognize patterns, solve problems. This person, this side of our brain, has accomplished absolutely amazing things. Top apex predator on the face of the planet. I love talking this for a second. When you look at that guy, what technology put him over the edge?
Well, the coat.
The what? The coat. Yeah, absolutely. Most people don't get that. Okay. The spirit, the addle and the darts are pretty cool, but the ability to sew tight-fitting clothes was the key advantage. So that whole tactical-looking thing is founded in good hard science, guys. That's all I'm saying, right? Now, here's the other side that we can put in here, right? If the subconscious doesn't trust the ability of the rational mind, it opens the cage and lets the bear out. The bear can't use tools, and it really can't problem solve. What can the bear do, though? It can tear shit up or run away really, really fast. This is the home of survival stress reaction, the body alarm reaction, all the stuff that Siddle likes to talk about. Now, I'm not making fun of the bear, because these are time-tested and selected survival mechanisms, right? These may sometimes be the answer. So, when things start to look dicey, the subconscious is trying to figure out who it's going to trust to solve the problem. The subconscious will tend to trust the rational mind up until existence really becomes seriously threatened. The subconscious can and has got to be taught through our training to trust the rational mind in order to leave the rational mind in control. The more the subconscious trusts the rational mind, the longer it will let it stay in the game and try to solve the problem. Complex legal analysis are not a place where the bear really does well, right? That's where the rational mind has to be involved. Now, the bear is ideally suited as some kind of a last-ditch backup in case all that rational shit just doesn't seem to be working out for us. Now, when we shift between the systems, it's typically not instantaneous, and the subconscious will actually prepare, right, to be the bear by releasing this thing called adrenaline. A lot of people think adrenaline is a bad thing. Adrenaline is just nitrous oxide for our bodies, right? Reflexes are faster, we're stronger, we can move faster. It's not a bad thing. The thing to remember is that sometimes the bear will kill you. When people started studying scuba accidents, most of the people who die in scuba accidents have what in their tanks? Air. Perfectly usable air, okay? But when things start to go wrong and you've got to swap regulators and stuff like that, okay, you're 200 feet underwater, you've got this thing in your mouth, and the bear really, really wants to breathe right now. What does the bear tend to do? Pull that out, right? That's the last thing you want to do, because again, sometimes the bear will get you killed. The bear is best kept in the back of your mind to solve natural problems. When most people are speaking, let's say for instance, the speech center for normal conversation is the right side of the brain. Profanity comes out of the left side of the brain, because profanity is inherently emotional. So when I say something's really, really fucking bad, It's a genuine emotional response. I am triggering the other side of my brain, right? So there's questions, and we'll go into this in a little bit later, like when I try to figure out how bad it is, these are the kind of questions. Am I looking at fear or anxiety? Do I have time pressure? Catastrophic results? How's my current state? Those are all kind of the things that get parsed out to figure out how bad it is, right? Now, sometimes it's not really, really freaking bad, but it's not great, and I kind of end up in this middle ground here, right? The next question the brain tries to figure out is this: are we in control? Basically, in a nutshell, do our abilities seem equal to or greater than the problem we're facing? And part of that, how we figure this out, is have we seen this before? Have we won this before? Do we have any plans? And something you'll be hearing a lot more about this rest of this conversation, does our mental map match? This, by its nature, tends to be instantaneous, right? This stuff tends to take a little bit longer, and that's what these hash lines are for. This reflects feedback into this how bad equation, because I can always go over there anytime I need to with a great amount of ease. Who here has an incredibly high level fear of snakes, can levitate around snakes, right? There are people like that. There are certain things that human beings tend to have natural fears of. You know, spiders, snakes, and falling tend to be the really, really big common ones that we hear about all the time. You know why that probably is? Because they used to hunt us, right? Is how that works out, right? So, for the person with a very high level and concern with snakes, as soon as they get the sensory input that says snake, what happens? Boom, 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 boom. Way faster than that. As soon as you get that sensory input that says snake, you have levitated 6 feet into the air, moved 6 feet over, and if you've got a gun on you, you're probably trying to draw it while you're flying through the air, right? Just how that works, right? Because I immediately transitioned over to the emotional side of your brain. That whole limbic system decided to kick in. Now, let's think about a slightly different context. I've got a Rangemaster student who's got a little bit of training under the belt, and I've got an instrumental criminal. By instrumental criminal, I'm looking for somebody that's looking to get paid. This isn't some deep seething vendetta that he's trying to settle. He's just trying to get paid, right? So here's the bad guy before any guns come out, right? He sees you, whatever reason, he runs his, victim detection algorithm and decides, yeah, that's a good one, right? So that's that sensory input. Now, is he looking at the potential for life or death? And the answer is yes. So what are we going to get? He's probably going to have some flutters in his stomach, especially if he's new to this game, right? And his mind has to figure out, how bad is this situation that we're facing, right? And as we parse these options, he's not really facing fear. He's probably got some anxiety. He's not under time pressure because he's the one initiating the robbery, right? Is he facing catastrophic results? Yeah, okay. Probably not so much. They don't think so much as the victim being armed, but they think about, police, going to prison, that kind of stuff, right? Current state we'll talk more about, but current state is just kind of how things are going overall, both short-term and long-term. He runs the how bad thought process and comes back with not so bad, right? He decides to carry out his rational act, delivers his response, which is to lift, as he's close to you, lift the sweat, start to go for the gun, right? Now we're in the good guy's head, okay? Hopefully he has seen the guy plot that intercept course and start to head toward him, right? And he's like, what's going through the guy's head? It's like, this does not look good, right? He's getting the sensory input. Is this the potential for life or death? Yeah, absolutely. Is he going to get a little flutter in the stomach? Oh yeah, you bet you. And now we have to go through and try to figure out how bad this is. It's not immediately and obviously bad, but it's not great. So we're probably going to end up more in this middle ground, right? So we slide into here. We get the feedback between the two systems. And because this guy has training, he knows what an armed robbery looks like. It's not the end of the world. This is something that we think our abilities are able to handle. Now, as soon as the bad guy who was looking to just get paid and maybe go do a little crack in the next 30 minutes, as soon as he sees the gun, how does that change his world? Okay, is that the potential for life or death? Oh yeah, by a good measure, right? So, our how bad has changed. Okay, before we were just anxious, now we have legitimate fear. I've gone from no time pressure to very, very serious time pressure. Am I facing catastrophic results? Now it's not just go to prison, it's what? Get shot, right? Current state, say what? Go to Jesus. Take the room temperature challenge, as I heard some guy say, right? His current state wasn't great to begin with, so what's going to happen? Much more of a transition to that emotional side, And a lot of times they'll literally go like this, right, as you're pulling the gun out. And in a nutshell, this is the essence of personal combat. The shift of an opponent from their rational side of their mind to their emotional response is arguably the most important point in human conflict. I don't care if a mixed martial arts fight or a dog fight, the fighter who can stay rational and push his opponent into that emotional response is always going to have a much higher chance of winning. Did I say it was guaranteed? No, I said it increases your chances. So let's talk about World War I dogfighting, right? I love human beings. Human-powered flight was invented by the Wright brothers, 1903, okay? Great accomplishment, right? By 1917, what have we done with aircraft? Strapped machine guns to them and we're flying through three-dimensional space trying to kill each other. Them aren't human beings great, right? Well, there was no precedent for three-dimensional aerial combat, right? We had to figure out how to do this from scratch. The first guy to sit down and try to figure out how to do this was actually a German. Okay, what was his name? Oh, Boke's Dictum, right? And this is apparently, Daryl claims him as a long-lost relative. He swears it. They spell it the same way. It's B-O-L-K-E, right? It was Boke's Dictum, right? And it was interesting because he codified aerial combat, especially for the primitive aircraft of the day. Shock action or surprise is in fact the dominant factor in air combat. I would offer it's pretty much the dominant factor in all combat. If you're an aviation nerd, this is an awesome book. It's hard to find, but it was the first book to really start to talk about the value of simulated combat for aerial pilots. Absolutely fascinating book. Or as my favorite author says, if you can make him think about what you're doing to him instead of what he needs to do to you, you're probably going to win that fight.